conference with an opening statement from Coach Lea.
Just excited to be at game week, and obviously, excited for the guys to have a chance to compete this Saturday. I think just like every opener, there's you're as a coach, you're just hoping for a clean game and to avoid those self-imposed negatives, to take care of the ball, do all the little things the right way to hopefully chase the result we want. But I know the guys are excited to get out and to compete against another team, and I'm excited for them. They've earned the right to have that opportunity. We've had a good couple of days here this week, Sunday, and then this morning. And, we need to finish prep the right way, focusing on detail and execution, and trying to get, again, our legs back underneath us from camp and feel like we're feeling good, but ready to play our style, our strategy, and to execute on Saturday with focus. But excited to be at this point and know that, we got a big couple days ahead of us, and a great way to open our renovated stadium and a chance to compete against a good team. So with that, I'm happy to open for questions.
Charleston Southern, it seems like they're moving from a triple option to a pro-style offense. What are the challenges that come with that when you haven't seen what they're going to put on, what they're actually going to run on Saturday? There's not really tape on that, even if there's maybe some personnel overlaps from last year.
Yeah, you do the best you can to have awareness of personnel, and also to kind of understand the offensive coordinator's background, and to as much of the messaging, the same stuff you're looking at, I'm looking at. Just hey, what are we hearing? What are we seeing? I think anytime you're opening with a team that doesn't have it on film, you're going to need to be ready to adjust and adapt. And so much of early in this game is going to be keeping the ball inside and in front of us, capping our mistakes, forcing them to go the long, hard way, and then finding those opportunities for us to be aggressive as we kind of figure out what their offensive personality is. And I think, too, just to kind of go back to what I said in the opening statement, I mean, the first game is always going to be it's going to be more about you than the opponent, meaning, the game comes down to your mistakes, your understanding, your execution, and how you play. And we talk defensively, elite defense is 50% what you play, 50% how you play, and we need to make sure both those things are on display on Saturday as we get a feel for how they're going to attack and what are the elements of that offense that are new, what are the elements that they're carrying over, what are the elements that we've seen on film from the coordinators past, and put all that together on Saturday to do the best we can to position our players for success.
What have you made just the general focus and intensity this early in the week?
It's been great. You would expect that. I thought Sunday was as spirited a practice. We've been a little bit more intentional about having some time away at the end of camp last week to try to get our legs back. Thought they handled that the right way. Seemed to come out. I mean, the numbers told me on Sunday we had a lot of top speeds, and we were out on the field shorter time. We had more load, more intensity. That's all positive. Today, I felt like, first of all, it was a beautiful morning, so it was great to be on the field with the team. And again, the guys are working hard. My message to them today was, it's almost like you got to get out of this mode of training camp where, you kind of coach through mistakes on film and into this mode of performance where your mistakes are going to be amplified in the result of the game. And so the details that it's going to take for us to play the way we want to play, those need to start showing up for us in preparation. And we have a lot of young players that'll play their first snaps in college on Saturday, and for them to take ownership in that level of preparation, that level of detail, that'll be the emphasis here through the finish. I think the physical work's been good. I think we're physically prepared. This is about the mental preparation, again, the focus and execution in the moment to make sure that we're forcing the opponent to play left-handed. That's the goal. And I think the guys have responded well to every challenge. That's the challenge here through the finish. And that's what it's going to take, focus and execution for us to again, find the result we want on Saturday.
Eli, 100%.
No, he's working his way back, and I've got him at this point. Let me get this going here. Questionable for Saturday. He's been able to reintroduce into kind of controlled elements of practice, and he's feeling better. So I feel I'm encouraged by the progress he's made. But not at 100% just yet, but plenty of time for him to get there for Saturday.
Say questionable, like what would the threshold have to be for A, for him to go, and B, like how do you manage it if he's not, like, you don't want to put him out there at risk anything, right?
Yeah, it'll just come down to what's his level of participation over the next couple of days. If we can get him back out in competitive situations, we'll feel good about him playing on Saturday. And, maybe that's not every snap, but, to get him some work would be awesome. And yet, if we're not able to get him out in competitive situations, we'll probably hold off just because, we don't want the first time that he's opening up and reacting to be in a game situation. So the hope there is that we can cross that line in the next couple of days. We got time, and he's able to be out there. But at this point, we can't guarantee that. So we'll see.
Clark, SEC will be moving to a 9-game schedule starting next year. How do you feel about that extra conference game that will be coming soon?
Well, I think it's great for college football fans. I think it's exciting, and it's something that's been talked about for a couple of years, so it's not surprising. And honest to God, I haven't put a whole lot of thought into next year's schedule. I'm kind of in this mode now where we're one day at a time, focused on today and then tomorrow and then eventually Saturday, and that's kind of how we'll live our life over the next 6 months. But to me, as far as the schedule goes, I don't really care who we play against. Put the ball down and let's play, and we'll have the team ready to play whoever it is. And obviously, when you talk about SEC football, you're talking about the best of the best. So to get another opportunity, another exposure in the type of environments we play in, against the type of teams we play in as a competitor, that's what you want to do. So I'm excited for college football, and I'll probably have more thoughts about that as we turn the calendar. Right now, this is about Charleston Southern.
Someone outside the program, you might look at the depth chart and see Martell Hyatt listed as backup wide receiver, but starting corner. Does that suggest that he'll play more at corner than wide receiver?
We're going to start him as a corner, and again, we lost Martell for a significant chunk of training camp, so we want to be smart with how we use him. He's going to have the ability to play in the opening series on both sides of the ball. His role on offense will be a little more play to play. Defensively, he'll be out there, first, second, third down, and for the extent of the drive. There will come a point of time where we will take that approach with him on offense too, and there's going to come a point of time where he plays defense, catches a punt, and is back out with offense. So you're going to see that. To start off, his focus, the prescribed plan is to have him start at corner, have plays on offense. At a given point, we'll get him a full series on offense where you'll see a little more of a lift from him there. He'll be returning punts, and we want to get a feel in this game of how he handles that back and forth, and what's the extent to which we can push. And we haven't had the chance necessarily to do that in practice yet, just because we lost him there for the 2 scrimmages. So we'll play that by ear, but he's prepared himself for it. His player loads are all at a level where we feel good. I think we'll have a snap count on him just from a standpoint of like making sure that we don't overexert. And when it comes down to those critical snaps, we'll make sure he's available to play corner because that's where his focus will be. That's his priority.
I know you mentioned Glenn Seabrook's health in the past. How is he with his ramp-up process? Where's he at?
Yep, he's back in practice. He today was able to work on in the scout periods and really had no restrictions. So he's he's back at it. We have him right now listed as probable for the game. Because he's missed time in camp, again, we want to be smart with him, and we'll see how he responds tomorrow in another day where we'll have a chance to have the pads on and compete. But I've been pleased with how he's recovered, and it's great to have him back out there. So we're planning on having him with us and playing on Saturday.
What has Richie done to earn his starting spot?
You know, I mean, he is consistent. He gets open. He catches the ball. He is a physical player. He's got the attitude that you want out there, and you know, he's become one of the most trusted targets in that room. And there, you know, obviously there's a few guys now that are, you know, Diego feels really comfortable with, and we can feature on offense. But you know, Richie's kind of, I think, one of the forgotten ones because he's made some big plays for us here. Called some big passes for us. He's continued to do that. He was restricted through spring and part of summer, and we reintroduced him in fall camp. I think it took him a little time to get back into it, but he's been impressive this training camp, and he's earned the right to be out there. So excited for him, and again, a guy that is going to make a difference for us.
You mentioned Eli and Martell's situation. Anybody else on a kind of a pitch count for injury situations or anything like that that might be questionable or doubtful for game one?
Well, and let me clarify with Martell. His is less about pitch count. It's more about if we're going to play him in all three phases. We can't look up and all of a sudden he's played, 120 total snaps. We have to be. I think part of that is just learning about how he handles those situations and making sure that we're not losing track, right? I think the maximum number of snaps he's played is somewhere in the neighborhood of 80, I think, in the Tennessee game last year. And so we're going to probably keep him in that range. And just when push comes to shove, we want him available for the most critical snaps on defense. So we're going to prioritize. We're going to make sure we have awareness of how he's feeling and how many reps he's played. But he's going to be out there to impact winning, and there's really no restriction other than we're not going to let that number get out of control. As far as questionable, Bryson Coleman still coming back from an ankle sprain. He's been able to do some things in practice that give me hope for him. I think we just got to see if there are any setbacks from now to then. Hopefully he's available to do some things for us. Chase Gillespie, who's now reintroduced into practice, really encouraged, and I'm so happy for him because I know it's been a long road to recovery, but it's been great to have him back out. Brian Longwell tweaked an ankle on Sunday. Not a severe injury, but one that we need to give a little time to heal. As of right now, he's questionable. We're going to see how it responds, but I think that's on a positive trend. Jordan Matthews is being reintroduced into practice, and so right now he's questionable, but trending towards available, and in which case we would love to have him do some stuff. Issa Watara is dealing with a shoulder that he's worked through here in the back part of training camp. We're seeing how that responds. He's been great and been out there and been available in practice. Jay St. Hilaire had a nasal fracture in the second scrimmage, and so he's questionable for the game. And then we talked about Eli. Those guys are the ones that are listed as questionable as of now. I'll have an update for you after Thursday to see where that goes. A lot of those guys trending in the right way. We just got to see how they respond here late in the week.
Other than a win on the scoreboard, what do you most want to see from your team the first time out in a real game?
I want to see them have fun. I think, God, they've worked so hard, and I don't know. Just so much time is put into this, and I think sometimes we forget to have fun. We forget to enjoy the moment. I want to see us play a clean game. I want to see us play the game the right way. I would love to see the things that we've made priority since January, show up in our performance. But that's the beauty of the game. You don't control all that. You got to have the right attitude and respond the right way. We say head body, be in the present, and just enjoy being out there on what should be a great evening for football, and make your mistakes full speed. And good things tend to happen when you focus on what you can control, approach each snap with the right attitude, have focus and belief, and again, enjoy playing together. That's what I want to see from this group.
I don't know the best way to ask this, but are there different expectations for a game one when you don't really know what your team is yet on the field, despite what you have coming back? You understand what I'm saying?
No.
Try it again. Let's say week 9, as you've gone through and gone to battle with these guys, and you feel like you know what to expect from them. This is week 1, and you're starting over.
Yeah.
Are there different, I guess, expectations or way to approach it in week 1?
Yeah, the mission's winning, so the focus is winning performance, and that is, I mean, we have a very defined set of standards that we want to reach for in that attempt. But what you're kind of getting at is, I think one of the coolest parts about all of this, and it's one of the more underrated aspects of being a part of a team, coaching a team. Inevitably, we have, I think, as a fan or as an outside perspective, a lot of times you feel like, all right, the car is gassed up and you set sail, and I guess I'm crossing transport lines there, but whatever. I'm a football coach, we can do that. And that's it, and you see how long the car or the boat, depending on which your preferred transportation is, how far it goes. Meaning what you start with only depletes, and you finish and you're like, okay, let's see where we landed. The reality is, and I think the best teams strengthen as the year goes. And just like as humans, what strengthens you isn't always, the good stuff. A lot of times it's the hard stuff, and what you learn about yourself for good. What are your strengths? What are the things that you need to feature? Some of those we know, and some of those we're going to learn about starting on Saturday, and how we strengthen those elements that we think can help us win, or feature the strong parts. That's important. But what are the painful lessons we learn too? And that's going to be true over the course of the season. And then you look as a coach and you just, okay, what are we learning, and how do we adjust and adapt? And it's not always enjoyable, because sometimes those lessons are really hard and really painful. And like I said, you put so much into it, but it always gives you this little ounce of control in response, and this ability to pull up and see big picture and say, okay, maybe we like these things, let's continue doing those. Sometimes after a challenging game, you feel like nothing's right, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? This exercise is, all right, what actually did I see? Let me keep my feet in reality here. What are the things that we're doing well? Let's continue doing those. Where do we need to adjust and adapt? And that's where the fun starts, the challenge of it starts. And so to answer a very good question, I think it's, we have standards, we have expectations, we have strategy, we have style, we have identity, things that we have spoken into existence and actualized on our fields. Those things need to show up for us in what will be an imperfect game. For us, there's going to be a lot that we learn about our team on Saturday that give us an ability then to say, okay, here's what we know, now here's how we move forward. And day by day, week by week, you hope that if we're doing a good job and we're honest with ourselves and we keep our feet in reality, that's actually how you bring your team into focus. And in that way, there's no one team that's like another. Last year's team isn't here anymore. And what we did, the raft we used, there's another transport term, a year ago, isn't going to work for this group. It's got to be reimagined. It's got to be different. We can pull some of those core components forward, but we have to be willing to adjust, adapt, and see this group for what it is.
The offensive line had a lot of procedural issues early in camp.
Chris, why you bring me back down? I just went on and on. Okay.
The last part of camp, what we saw looked better. Was that something that continued into the part that we didn't see?
Yeah. A lot of that is building chemistry expectation. You're talking specifically about the performance in camp, Chris. Is that just training camp? Yeah. So early on, a little disjointed, a little out of sync. I think some of that is, again, learning how we play. We had a number of transfers that we introduced in the summer. So I think until you've gone through a Coach K practice battery, you haven't practiced, and so to watch, and you guys have seen it. I mean, to watch those guys, they are in constant motion, and they're, those are 330-pound humans that just move the entire time, and it's in constant motion, but it's not going through the motions. I mean, they're working. So I think there's an element of, the learning how to practice the right way, learning what that's going to feel like. I thought some of the sloppiness early had to do with mental fatigue and lack of focus. Obviously, there's also this element of, hey, we're installing, and you've got multiple fronts, pressures, but you also have multiple cadences. So you have to, totally focus on your part of it while you're also reacting to what the defense is doing. And so I think building the mental conditioning, having an expectation of what practice is going to feel like, and giving Coach K time to drive home the expectations has cleaned up, our performance. And we had a procedural issue today. I mean, it's still imperfect, but we're going to continue to emphasize it, and we hope that by the time Saturday comes, we can put all the pressure on Charleston Southern. And inevitably, there are going to be things that we're going to have to respond to, and mistakes will be made. That's a part of it. But the more we can put pressure on them, again, the better chance we're going to have at the result we want.
The last time we saw Colby Taylor, he was committing 25 yards of penalties to give Georgia Tech a field goal, and then he had this camp where it looked like he played really well. He committed fewer penalties. Can you take us through his process over the offseason, the last 8 months of getting to this place where he looks, he earns a starting spot, he looks like one of your better corners?
Well, I've always said this to KT, so I don't mind saying it here. I mean, KT is probably the most gifted corner that I've ever coached. I mean, he's a really talented player, and he's a beautiful person. I mean, this is a guy that, when it comes to just working with his teammates and coaching the guys and encouraging the guys, if you ever listen to him over the course of a practice, you hear him serve as such a support. He understands brotherhood. He understands what it means to be connected. And yet he was challenged a year ago, and challenged in a way that honestly at times compromised the mission, and that's not okay, and so we took time with this as we kind of turned the page from last season, and Colby was ready to take the next step. I think he's developed a real comfort here and feels a sense of belonging, and he's been, I can't even say how proud I am of him, how happy I am for him on the level of consistency he's displayed since the winter. And there were things a year ago in that process that bubbled up where we knew there were some management elements ahead. He's been as steady and consistent as any of the guys that we have. So I'm super encouraged by that, because here's a great person who can be a great asset to our team and help our team win. He's got such a promising career ahead of him, and the season brings on unique elements of pressure and challenge and adversity, and I have every belief in Colby and have seen his commitment to being the right guy at the right time, doing things the right way. I've seen that for the entirety of the past, 8 months or however long it's been. So I'm encouraged by that, and I'm excited for him. And obviously, when he's available and when he's in the right headspace, he makes our team better. So I'm happy to have him out there representing our program.
Eli talked earlier about his blocking improving and that being an emphasis point. How big is that if that is true, and if that has improved, how much does that help you with how you're able to use him?
Well, I think there was a physical element to his game a year ago that made a difference for us. I mean, I remember seeing him show up in critical moments and winning at the point of attack, be it on the perimeter or kind of in the box in the core. And so, obviously, first of all, it's great for him because those are the things that he's going to be called upon to do for the remainder of his career. And so he's showing this idea that he is a skilled athlete and can be effective on the perimeter, but he's also a physical player that can win at the point of attack. I mean, that's how he strengthens his reach in terms of his career. Being that multifaceted it only helps our team because it means that we don't have to continuously sub out, or we don't have to display tendencies around who's doing what. I mean, this is a guy that can do it all. And so I think part of, my excitement about his returning was this idea that he'd only spent one season in the tight end room, and so having another season where he has a winter, spring, summer training as a tight end only puts him in positions to do all the jobs that position requires. And again, that is a tough human who, is also physically gifted at the point of attack too. He's got all the features you'd want, and so yeah, I'm excited to have him put that element of his game on display, and also excited to see him, win on the perimeter like he's done for us last season, and he'll continue to do, in critical moments.
The linebacking room was especially competitive. Feels like all 6 of those guys can play. How do you feel about that room? How interchangeable are those parts there?
Yeah, it's as first of all, the credit here goes to Nick Lazinski and the way he's developed that group. I think that's become a real position of strength for us, which helps in a number of ways. Obviously, when you talk about having a strong second level depth, you're talking about performance on special teams too, which is obviously huge for us. These are guys that can have impact on third down. And I do see those parts as interchangeable. So part of the challenge is you have guys that can play, and we need to find roles for them and make sure that they're out there on the field impacting winning, because they have all earned the right to do that. But it's a talented room that there's not a lot of drop-off no matter who's out there. And so, we want to give those guys opportunities to, again, to have roles, to impact winning, and to feel like they're a part of this. There's a ton of ownership stake in that room. There's a ton of investment in that room. And I'm very proud of that, and have a ton of affection for each of those guys. So credit to Nick Lazinski for the work he's put in on that, but also, it's interesting because you look at those names: Langston, Rinaldi, Cowan, Longwell, Prince Colley. It feels like they've been here for 15 years. It's like such a cool feeling and so many of those guys were here in some of the hardest times for this program, for them to have risen through the challenge and establish themselves as leaders and have great attitudes towards the work, and they're all good football players. So I'm excited for them, and obviously that, when you're good through the middle of your defense, you got a chance to be pretty good as a unit.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.